Okay, good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 21st, and you are listening to the very first podcast of Three Geek Senate. The Senate is now in session. Hi, my name is Brian J. Cano.
My name is Paul Bradford.
I'm Robert Bukszar.
And tonight we are going to be geeking out about Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, guys, I've been looking forward to this for the better part of the moment I heard about it.
I know.
Now, here's the thing. We've been burned by Star Wars before. We love it. We grew up with it. And the prequels left that bitter taste in our mouth. And honestly, with me, The Force Awakens, while I've seen it 15,000 times on Stars when it first came out, I was not happy. So I went into Rogue One really feeling kind of like the end of that movie Fanboys going, oh, what if it sucks?
Yeah. Talking of bitter taste, that beer is still in my mouth. I cannot get rid of it.
Stop with the beer problem.
It's just so horrible.
Anyway, but yeah.
I took a mouthful when he said bitter taste, and I was like, oh, it so is.
Oh, blue milk.
Horrible. Blue milk?
Yeah, hey, talking about blue milk, I mean, at least they made at least they had the blue milk in Galen Erso's house on the table when they panned into it, if you noticed that. So you noticed it was in the universe.
Here's one of the things that I've been noticing around the internet and all the different posts and other blogs and podcasts, and a lot of them were talking about, the references and the fan service was ham-handed and it was too much. And I felt just the opposite. I felt like all the little references, as opposed to The Force Awakens literally hit you with member berries. Like, hey guys, I know there's no plot, but remember this? Whereas Rogue One, it felt very organic, and if you missed it, you missed it.
All right, before we go too far into it, though, the first thing to happen, the first thing of any Star Wars movie that ever happens is the
crawl,
and it goes in, and then the text, right?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, that's the thing. So
that left a bit of thing right at the beginning.
That caught me off guard a little bit, but here's the thing.
That's because it's not saga. It's not one of the saga chapters.
It is. It's 3.5.
We'll see. Okay, so here's the thing. It's not in the.
It could very well have been.
But so you come in and you have this playing. So that's the one thing for me. It's kind of like you don't get that satisfaction of the and then hitting the crawl. But the thing is, if you watch any of the shows, I'm a connoisseur of going outside of the Star Wars or the movies and enjoying the TV shows. Clone Wars, avid fan of the Clone Wars.
Great show.
From the beginning. Same thing. Excuse me. The Star Wars Rebels. Same way. You get a title and then it just goes into the show. You don't. But now with the the Clone Wars, you had kind of the recap. You had the guy, kind of recap what was going on leading up to the events in that episode. But you still didn't. You don't have a crawl on every episode. So the same thing with this is I kind of felt like that kind of was true to where those things were. It lets you know it's in the Star Wars universe, but at the same time, it doesn't obey the same roles as the Star Wars, the core Star Wars movies.
I mean, let's face it.
I felt like I missed that. I did. I personally, as soon as it jumped in and it went into the space scene and everything, I was like, wait.
I get what you're saying.
You forgot what,
I definitely get what you're coming from, but I also feel that none of the crawls, as much as we love the crawls, none of them are Shakespeare. Nothing too deep has ever been said in a crawl, and for the most part, we went into the theater knowing, okay, this is a story about how we got the Death Star plans. Let's get to it. Sure. So we just saved ourselves 90 seconds of screen time. Let's get into the action.
Oh, but okay. When I saw The Force Awakens, okay, I went in and it did the whole boom and the music came in and everyone's like, yeah, and everyone was cheering. You didn't get that. We didn't have that atmosphere
because
in cinema this time.
it didn't have the build. It didn't have the build of the conventional movie or the. Right. But the thing is, like, I felt like it was trying to do its own thing, which it was. It's touted as a Star Wars story, a story of that universe.
All right, so let's institute a little bit of process here in the Senate. So there's three of us, so the three senators who are presiding. Let's vote on this. Rogue One, the crawl, thumbs up or thumbs down, the lack of it. So Paul,
I felt that it should have been there, even if it was just. It just that tells me Star Wars, and that's and as a kid you wait for that moment. So I wish it had been there.
So you give it the thumbs down.
Yeah, the fact it wasn't there gets a thumbs down.
Okay, Senator Rob, what about you?
I'm a little bit I'm a little bit on the fence with it because I see where he's coming from. I empathize with that. I kind of missed it because I kind of felt a lack of satisfaction from the beginning of it. But at the same time, I'm not so held to that form. I mean, I dig it, but at the same time, I also enjoy the way that it did it and just kind of said, this is what it is, let's get into it. So I'm kind of wavering. I'm okay with it. I think I'm going to say I'm okay. I'm okay with the way that it was done.
I also I give it a thumbs up, not because I mean I see where you're coming from, Paul, and I get it, but at the same time, episode 1 had a crawl, and 5 minutes into it, Lisa had a character we hate.
Oh boy,
God!
So let's get into Darth Jar Jar. Let's not go down that.
no.
Jar Jar, yeah, that was great.
Now we were getting into the topic of callbacks to the originals, and we could just start firing them off.
But here's the thing. So you want to talk about callback. I mean, so big comparison between the Force Awakens and Rogue One. The fact that I felt that the Force Awakens was beat for beat very much a repeat of the original Star Wars movie.
Absolutely.
Like, I was watching it, and I was in there the first showing of the movie.
Yep.
In Louisville, 7 o'clock on December, what was it, 17th? 17th. The first showing, I hadn't seen anything of it. The only time that it's been shown before that was, to the press and the, everything else. So I had no preconceived notions of what it was. And I'm watching it, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm watching the same movie, just with different characters plugged into place.
This is what I'm saying, in a comparison between the two movies, whereas we've had 30-plus years. J.J. Abrams, I loved his reboot of Star Trek. We gave him our trust, our childhood, our geek lives, and we said, "Here, take care of this." And I felt like he essentially, like you said, he gave us the same story. And you're going to have a budget.
Played it safe.
You're going to take a Disney-sized budget and do the same movie. I could do that, and I have no money. But with Rogue One, here's the thing: it
did its own thing.
A lot of people were complaining that, not complaining, not a lot, but I've seen comments online that says, it was just like Jedi, because the end you have the space battle and the land battle, and I'm thinking that's just warfare. This is what they've got to deal with, and we're not getting a repackaged story. We are in the original story. New Hope is seconds away.
Yes.
It's about to happen. So this is
Well,
not a callback. We're going back to it. We're literally going back to the moment and saying, hey.
It ends about 5 minutes before episode 4, A New Hope starts.
So good.
Yes, I love that, dude. I mean, I'm not going to say anything right now, but no, I might. I don't know. Hang on. What were we saying? I've forgotten. Wait. Hang on.
Claire, are you?
I'm using the Force on Paul right now.
God damn, that beer is really throwing me off.
I find your lack of memory disturbing, Paul.
Oh, good call. Good call.
That's just no. Wait, no. Force Awakens. Right. Hang on. The Force Awakens. Right now.
Right.
The thing I felt with Force Awakens is it introduced Star Wars to the new generation. It reminded us of the other stories. Yeah, it did, because we were there. We watched the originals and we saw them, but it gave us that what we wanted. It was very much directed at the fans. It wasn't trying to recreate a story. It was basically trying to introduce a new generations to it. We all loved R2. There was no way of getting around that. R2 was our droid. Yeah. And then they brought BB-8, and BB-8 is the droid of this millennia. It's
great addition. BB-8 was an excellent addition.
And I mean, the plot was a little, it was a bit crappy. I mean, I had to find Luke and all this, and we still don't. There's still so many sort of things to be explained. Which great, let's do that. Let's do that in the next few movies, and let's not rush it, because that's what the first 3 did. When they went back and did the 3 prequels, they rushed everything.
Yeah.
It
felt like they had like way more story that they were trying to get out, and they tried to cram it into this 2.5 hour block, and it really was like, if they would have just let it breathe, I think they would have done a better job.
Let's talk about Rogue One specifically. We keep
way back,
wandering back to The Force Awakens, but here's one thing that, it's clear. I loved the movie. I left the theater feeling like I was a kid again, and I was so enthused. I wanted to call one of you guys the minute I saw it.
I know.
But Here's the only one thing that's sticking out in the back of my head that goes, I could make excuses for almost everything else in the movie that needs it, except this one thing.
Yes.
Okay, now in I believe it was New Hope. I believe it's, if memory serves. Now I'm the one having memory problems. Mon Mothma said, "Hey, many Bothans died to bring us this information."
Hold on. That was Jedi.
That was Jedi. Okay.
That was Jedi.
The Bothan spies. Okay.
Yeah, that was Mon Mothma in Jedi.
So that was Jedi. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So no Bothans here. Not a Bothan to speak of.
See, that's the thing. I was under I fell to the same guys.
Those furry bastards.
Same preconceived notion. And then as it went along, I was like, I actually went back and watched the movies. I was like, wait a minute. I've got for some reason that line I've got associated with A New Hope.
Me too.
It's Jedi. I don't know why.
Hey, you've just saved the movie for me. Now it's perfect.
Yeah, it's Jedi. Because it's when they're trying to get everybody together. Calrissian comes in and he's the general, and then Han comes in, and then Luke and Leia they're all there. But that's when that line is said is Jedi.
Well, the good thing about this is that for years and years and years, all right, you take Star Wars, it follows the hero's journey. It follows that formula of heroic characters and the ascension of a hero. And we've seen this in many, many different points in literature and movies over the years, which is why it's so satisfying, because it follows that formula. What makes Rogue One great is that it makes A New Hope even greater.
Oh, it does.
Because it says, it wasn't some Imperial engineer screwing up and they blew it up because of this exhaust port. It was on purpose, and that retroactively makes A New Hope awesome.
Yes.
But see, that is absolutely. The thing is, I appreciate this movie so much more because it adds depth, it adds characters, it adds story, it adds new people into that universe that support the original thing that I loved.
So good.
So you go deeper into that story, and I love when you have myth building and story building and world building and universe. I mean, universe building. I mean, the whole movie is jumping from planet to planet to planet.
Mm-hmm.
You're introducing planet. I mean, it starts out, but that's one of the things I kind of had a little bit of an issue with, not in a bad way.
It was very fast in the beginning.
Yes, it felt a little. It felt like it depleted it and muddled it. It mudded it up just a little bit.
See, I didn't think the beginning was very fast. I thought
it
that
was
kind of dragged
boom,
a little
planet,
bit.
Boom, planet, boom, planet. This and this. Now, granted, it wasn't unnecessary, except for Cassian, who I think that little plot where he was the doctor and the I told you walrus face.
Ponda Baba.
Yeah. That was great.
That whole thing, I feel like that little scene, whole scene was done just to have those two characters in there.
Yes. Yeah, it was
and I'm
purely
fine
a throwback.
with that. I'm fine with that, but I felt like that jump to that planet for that scene.
No, that happened. No. That happened on Jeddah. They were already there.
Yeah, they were
the
on
planet
Jeddah.
You were talking about is that Guardians of the Galaxy-esque type midpoint where he was trying to get the information from that guy he later killed.
Yeah. Because then he kind of turned and just took him out right after he took out the stormtroopers, which I was kind of surprised that he did that.
That felt right out of Rebels. Just this Imperial occupied place where anytime you turn a corner, there's going to be stormtroopers you've got to answer to, and wow, what are we going to do?
Yeah,
well, okay.
and he acted on the moment.
The first moment, the first moment that literally took my breath away was Tarkin.
Yeah.
Oh my God! When I saw the reflection, I thought that's all we're going to get.
I thought we were going to get it like Revenge of the Sith, like the back shot.
Yes.
Right. That's all I thought. We're going to just see the back of him and a reflection in the window. And holy hell, he's a main character. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I didn't gasp. I didn't make a sound. I did something in between. It was like a, ah! I think I made that sound audibly in the theater.
Well, the thing is, I was with the family. I was with Sonia and whatnot, and I'm like, oh, and she's like, I don't know who that is. I don't know. I'm like, but
oh my god,
he's dead. He's dead.
From
the actor's
dead.
Like,
I need you to leave. You need to go.
I was just like, I stood up and like, somebody fucking knows who this is, right? No, right. But it just blew me away. The minute I saw Peter Cushing, I was like, holy crap, this is amazing.
See, they prepped me for that with Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba, a.k.a. Walrus Man and his friend. Right. All these little things, I'm like, oh, I know who they are. I know their names. Tarkin?
Yeah, right. But that's
That's
the thing.
So
And did you also notice that a lot of the casting? I mean, that's the casting was like slightly younger versions of the people we saw in New Hope.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. The
Yeah.
casting was amazing.
But the thing is, though, it's so closely aligned with New Hope. It's like there's not enough time. There's like weeks that pass between this movie and A New Hope.
Yeah.
It's not years. It's not months. It's like maybe not even a week.
I would argue like less than a day, because Vader's going to track that ship. He's going to hop into the Death Star. And
I'm telling you, it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's got to be 5 minutes.
Oh god, it's so good.
But okay, so Tarkin, granted, okay, so I saw it on IMAX.
Me too.
IMAX, that experience
me too.
was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was like I'm really good, and I've always had a problem with when I look at an image, I analyze and I can pick out. So Tarkin was fantastic, but at the same time, it's like you could see the CG. It was like it would.
No.
For a
Would
moment,
your brain see? That's the thing.
No,
it
I
was
shut
for
it
a
off.
moment.
That's
Yeah,
virtual
for a moment,
reality,
like,
because
I'm
you
looking
know
at it
Peter
and-
Cushing died in '94. So imagine if you knew nothing about Star Wars and you saw this movie for the first time, would that have gotten you?
I could still tell it was CG.
No,
Regardless,
I
can tell a CG movement because of the translucency of the skin, because the way it moves, the way it reacts. Now, don't take this away from me. They did a fantastic job.
No,
They did.
No.
They absolutely did.
But, and there were
did.
sometimes in the movements, it would melt
Yeah.
into like a realistic image, like it was a real person. And then sometimes it would catch, and then it would give a little bit of that I'm CG.
Well, see, I love how they
it was still well done for somebody.
Talking about CG, if you noticed when Phantom Menace first came out, they tried to do Yoda as a puppet again, and that failed horribly.
That was so bad.
But now, if you watch it again, Yoda is now CG, and he looks amazing.
They took that Jedi holocron,
but
with the puppet Yoda, the young puppet, and they went, I don't know what happened to that.
But that's the thing. He's an alien, so we don't know what he's supposed to look like.
Oh,
Tarkin, human being,
Yoda.
we know, and there's always a problem with CG characters with like dead eyes. We can't really replicate that.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes that will always do it.
The actor they cast, underneath him, they did a blend so that for the most part, the eyes are real. The actress who plays Leia at the end, they use...
Oh my god!
It's just this is
now,
probably the best.
Leia was I think Leia looked worse than Tarkin. Leia immediately, I was like, that is all CG.
See, I wouldn't.
And granted,
I agree,
but I can still tell that.
But I wouldn't use the word worse. It just was not as good.
And I don't mean worse in a bad way. I mean, okay, so it
like
was
we got a taste of this earlier this year with Captain America: Civil War with young Robert Downey Jr. and I was amazed.
See, what they do with those is that company that does those, they actually go back and they take pieces of old films that they were in and they use that to render the younger versions of them, and they overlay it. They did it with Michael Douglas and Ant-Man.
Yep.
I mean, they took him from Wall Street? Was it Wall Street? What was the movie? I think that was the movie that he had done.
Probably.
But I think that was the time that they wanted him to look in.
Sure.
That was amazing. That looked like it was him. That looked real.
See, this was a bold move on Rogue One's part, because with Ant-Man, it was a quick scene. By the time you realize, wow, how'd they get Michael Douglas young? That scene is gone, and you don't see it again for the rest of the movie. Whereas Tarkin keeps coming back. He's got lines. He's got gravitas, and that just makes sense, because this man, as you see in A New Hope, he's going to be very important before he gets too cocky and doesn't take the escape shuttle out.
Yeah. But I mean, it was so great to be able to see him. I mean, we see him in was it the Star Wars Rebels? He's in that show.
Yes.
And I mean, you get to see the conniving, the evil, how controlling he is of that. He's the force to be reckoned with, kind of behind everything. And he'll make those calls with just cold calculating, details, and just see that just build and kind of that character kind of fall into that same mold. It's just really neat. Like I said, you're getting more depth.
This is raising issues with the acting community as far as digital likeness and
correct.
Are we going to lose roles to this?
Rights.
But the thing with this is if Tarkin had not been in it, or had been in it just minorly, we as the fans, we as Star Trek and Star Wars and just sci-fi geeks could be like, hey, come on, man, Tarkin should have been in it, and we would have complained the other way. So I'm completely
like the thing with
happy.
even Star Trek Beyond. I mean, that they could have continued. They didn't have to kill off the other version of Spock. They could have continued to use a CG likeness of him, but they didn't. They opted to go with letting him pass, and that's how the character goes on.
One Spock in the universe is enough, but we'll get to that in another episode.
We don't have to get into Star Trek now. Try to keep it
Try
real.
to keep this Rogue One,
because this could go really off the rails.
Oh my God, yes. Well, I mean, talking about like the CGI element, though. I mean, we compare. Let's compare, Tarkin now to say Tron, when they were doing a young version of
Flynn.
Bridges. Flynn, Is Jeff Bridges?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the same. That was the same technology.
It looked good, but not great.
Yeah, it looked very.
Again, you're kind of overlaying on top of that original. You're still overlaying on that actor. You have that person's face to overlay that on. Whereas Tarkin was completely generated.
Yeah, it had to be.
And that movie was also forgivable. I mean, the technology wasn't where it is now, but that's also forgivable there because you're in the computer. You're in a digital universe there, so you could, you can explain away why he doesn't look perfect because, we're in a computer.
No, not at the beginning. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, he was actually young Kevin Flynn, and there was, before he disappeared. But anyway, back to Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars. Rogue One.
One thing that I loved, a detail that they matched, if you remember, in the original Star Wars, Vader's helmet had red lenses.
Yes.
Which they went back to for this, which I appreciated. It's a little detail I dug.
I very much appreciate it. I'm looking at it, and it was amazing.
I loved it. The tank. When they first introduced Vader without his uniform on.
Yes.
Oh,
he was in the Bacta tank.
Yeah, I loved it.
Because that was a thing that they were calling to like all beforehand. Everybody was like, "Who's in the Bacta tank? Is it the Emperor? Is it Vader? Is it da da da?"
And Rob, they have confirmed that yes, that is Mustafar.
Okay, good. Yes,
that's Vader's castle on Mustafar.
I was like, "Is he on Mustafar?" Because Mustafar is where he lost his limbs. That's where he fought Obi-Wan. That's where everything went down.
The volcano.
Maybe he goes super depressing
because it feeds the dark side. It feeds his anger. It feeds his rage. And I mean, why not? But to see a live action Sith temple, it pull in and Krennic lands in his transport, and to see that Sith, I was like, I lost track of how many times I audibly gasped or made a sound. Normally, when I go watch a movie, I go by myself, and I'm sitting there, I'm watching it, and I get through, and I'm like, I saw Doctor Strange. Nothing audible. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. But this movie, there were so many times I was like, and there's a dude sitting next to me, and I had to talk to somebody. I had to say, but is that this? And he's like, yeah, that's that. And I was like, I'm so glad this dude's on board with what I'm doing.
I mean,
well, the thing is,
go ahead.
What I was going to say is, and this is as far as sort of people who are listening to us, one of the things they need to understand at this point is that we all went to see it, and none of us have actually spoken about it to each other yet.
Right. This
is something we planned this. We decided that we were going to do this podcast thing. We've been planning this forever.
Yeah.
But this is actually the first time we've actually had this opportunity. So, but what people need to understand is that the three of us have actually not spoken a word of Rogue One to each other, other than "holy shit." I think was the only thing I'd say.
We've been saving it because after I saw it, I immediately I Facebooked Rob and I just said, in the words of Windows from fanboys, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!"
And then my response was, "I am one with the Force. The Force
is with me."
Yeah. Yes, but that's the thing. So, but what's going to happen? We're talking about our high points. We're talking about the points that we want to hit. So we can backtrack and we can come back to some of the stuff to fill in the things like the cast and the characters and the addition.
Sure.
Like Jen Erso, big fan. Gotta admit.
Yeah, I dug her. I dug her.
But the whole, let's be honest, Vader. Holy shit, Vader. Since I'm a kid, Vader that's been my thing, and it's like, God, just to see it, especially after the final episode of season 2 of of Star Wars Rebels, I'm going to tell you that is some of the best, most fantastic Star Wars storytelling I've seen to date. And Rogue One just added to that. Because when Ahsoka Tano slices his mask and you actually see Anakin and you hear Anakin's voice from the Clone Wars show melded in with James Earl Jones's voice, holy shit. It's like, at that exact moment, Darth Vader's Padawan, who was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, sees who Vader is for the first time and knows.
And then the season ends, and you're like, "Oh, come on! Oh,
Ahsoka's alive." I'm still saying Ahsoka's alive, but anyway, but that's the thing. It's like Vader. I mean, just to see him on Mustafar, see him there with the Imperial guards, standing to the sides of the Bacta tank. You see him being pulled up, limbs missing, not in the suit. The only time we've seen that before was one when he was being put in the suit in Revenge of the Sith. Mm-hmm. The other time was in Empire when he was in the isolation
without his helmet.
His isolation pod.
Well, that's the thing. We only saw him without the helmet.
Being lowered on.
Right.
But I mean, that whole thing. I mean, it was just him when Krennic, Orson Krennic walks in and he's having the words with him, trying to state. I'm like, I don't know how far this is going to go for you, dude. I don't know if you've actually ever talked to Vader before, but it's probably not going to go the way that you expect.
Let's talk about Vader for a minute, because
the cocky attitude.
When we get introduced to Vader for the first time back in 1977, the minute you see him, he's killing people, he's choking out guys. He is a villain. He is the man. Like, he is the person that the good guys have to beat. Okay, that doesn't happen. And as we've grown up, we've followed the arc of Anakin Skywalker from being a good guy to falling and his eventual redemption. Now that we're getting a little taste of badass Vader, we love it. Like that last 90 seconds of a film where he's just going through that hallway. Damn.
Dude, when he stands there and the door comes up and he's standing there and you hear...
Now,
just and the saber comes out. I was like, "Oh shit!" Let's think
about this for a second. Now, let's step outside of our geekdom. Let's step outside of I own a replica of Vader's lightsaber. I've got Vader's helmet. I'm a Vader fan.
Right.
But let's step back for a second. We are so enamored of pretty much the galaxy's greatest villain, an evil man, regardless that we know he goes back to the light side. That's like saying, remember, brain freeze. Who's the guy from Cuba, the dictator that just recently died?
Castro.
Remember Castro when he was young and he subjugated those rebels in the firing squad? We're constantly rooting for this bad guy. And
I know, but
I
the
love
thing is,
it,
we know how the bad guy turns out.
But
now
we didn't.
Know how to, but there's something about him that even as a kid, I was like, this dude's a badass, but at the same time, it's not that I'm relating to. I'm relating to just kind of what he is, but you can tell that there was always conflict. There was always a conflict in him, and you can see the battle going on. Even, he kind of did things on his own terms, but even when he was with the Emperor, you could kind of see okay.
See, I feel they only introduced that in Jedi, because in Star Wars, he's choking out people. He's the bad guy.
So when he's on deck, I mean, he's kind of, you could tell he's actually subjugated kind of to. I just lost his name.
Yeah,
Tarkin. He's constantly
he's
behind Tarkin. Constantly. Never in front of, always behind. It's the visualization that he's not in charge.
And that's the thing. Right. It's like, all right, they're the bad guys, like Tarkin and all the Imperial hierarchy, which they're always British, so the British are the bad guys.
It's true. It's true.
They're like your evil boss. They're like, ugh, this freaking guy. And you're kind of... You like him,
Vader was British.
But when they go down, they got what they deserved.
Vader was British.
Yeah, the actual guy that
Sebastian
played.
Shaw.
Yeah. No, Sebastian Shaw was
David Prowse.
David Prowse.
David Prowse was Vader. And actually, I have actually watched a documentary on David Prowse and the whole thing with Vader. And the thing that, and I only say that because I saw it recently, and he was kind of left out of the whole reveal with the face and he wasn't aware of it. He didn't know about it, and he didn't find out that Sebastian Shaw was going to be playing the unmasked Vader until it was happening. And some of the problems that happened with that was because David Prowse was looked at as by the directors, the producers, stuff like that, as a blabbermouth. He would sit down with the press and kind of reveal some stuff. Well, come to find out, and in this documentary, they reveal it, after 1976, was it 76 was the first Star Wars when it released?
77.
Okay, 77. So I thought they would re-release in 77. I thought it came out.
New Hope was 77.
Yeah, May 77.
Okay, so they have that in there. So he's actually in an interview and makes a quite elaborate, it turned out to be guess, but he says something like, wouldn't it be fantastic if you've come to find out that Luke Skywalker was the son of Darth Vader, da-da-da-da, and you go back and you read this. And then suddenly Empire comes along, and after that interview in which he says that, way before Empire is even conceived or even written, they include that note in there that he is Luke's father, which nobody knew up until that time. And they kept that information from him so he wouldn't blab, because they thought that he was blabbing information to the press and leaking information to the press, which is why he started to fall out of favor. And by the time you got to the third movie, I don't know if it was second unit director of the movie was starting to not include him in anything. He said it was a very tense time for him because he wasn't able to find out any information, and then come to find out Sebastian Shaw is now the face of Vader when he's been playing it the entire time. And then not only that, they voice it over, they dub it over with James Earl Jones.
But to be fair, did you ever see the footage with David Prowse's voice?
Yes, and he is actually almost spot on with Vader's voice.
No way.
No, hold on. Currently, I'm saying this right now. Currently, they actually shot. If you go back, it's actually on Netflix right now. It's called I Am Your Father. Go back and watch it. At that time, no, he wasn't. His voice was not. But now, his voice, his cadence, he says a couple of lines in there, and he almost sounds just like Vader does with James Earl Jones.
But with a British accent.
Right.
I am thrilled to death that James Earl Jones is still around and was able to lend his voice once again to Vader, because that completed the package.
Because there is nothing better than James Earl Jones' voice as Vader.
No.
When Disney, this is Disney money.
It's Mufasa, isn't it?
When Disney money got him to come back and do the voice in Star Wars Rebels, I about lost it.
Oh yeah.
He did Rebels as well.
He did.
That's James Earl Jones.
Well, even in the cartoon, I don't think it's made its way to Rebels yet, but in Clone Wars, even Liam Neeson came back for like a throwaway line of Qui-Gon's ghost.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Which, by the way, I think he should have survived that saber shot through the torso. But that's
if Darth Maul could survive getting cut in half,
Which, by the way, I called that way in advance. Because it cauterizes him. Nothing fell out.
Right,
it cauterizes it as it goes through. I was like, that dude lived, and he's got the Force.
We're actually gonna get back to your particular predictions with another character we love next year with Episode 8.
Yes,
but
I do need to go out. I think I need like a solitary block of time to explain my idea with that. Anyway, let's get back to Rogue One.
That's going to be a separate. That's Rob Bukszar, a 3 Geek Senate story, and that'll just be your theory of this issue.
It's a twisted theory, yes, but I think it could work. I'm telling you, I think it could work. I'm calling it. I called it the moment after I saw it.
Now,
anyway,
we got a lot of Death Star in this one, which I think is cool because we spent more time. Like back in New Hope, you have this big thing. It took them years to build, and just like in Clerks, Kevin Smith's Clerks, they said, okay, they built this thing, and a bunch of rebels come along and blow it up, and it's only filled with Imperial dignitaries and stormtroopers, so they deserved it. But we finally get to see, and I love how retro everything looked. All the displays, everything felt like this belongs. They didn't try to modern it up too much.
I'm going to tell you, there's a moment with the Death Star. It was one of my verbal holy shit moments. When they're like, sir, there's something large coming out of hyperspace. I lost my shit. Because at that moment, I realized the Death Star can travel at hyperspace.
Oh yeah.
I did not realize that until that moment, because when you watch A New Hope and it's the Death Star is coming in to take out Yavin 4, it's coming around the sun, it's creeping. You'd think that the whole time it's just been kind of meandering through space. It
would be very hard to subjugate a galaxy if it just ran on impulse power.
Right, but that's the thing. But I understand that. But I mean, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you can send things out from the space. It's a base that can travel. And granted, when you're in space, you're in a vacuum lock. If you're going realistic, and you have no friction or anything like that, you can travel at thousands of miles per hour. I get it. But the fact that this thing that you've never seen travel jumps like the Millennium Falcon into hyperspace.
I'm glad they didn't show it.
And comes out of hyperspace. That is a holy shit moment.
I'm definitely glad they didn't show it, because to
Right.
see the Death Star traveling in hyperspace would have felt weird. But just the fact
Right.
that they're like you said, something's coming out of hyperspace, and you turn
that
around
was-
and there
also
it
I
is.
was like, it goes into hyperspace. I'm a 40-year-old man going, this thing travels in hyperspace. Oh my god!
Hey, and
It
happy
goes
birthday,
really
by the way.
fast.
You got Rogue One for
Oh,
your
yeah.
birthday. This was amazing.
I did every year. Every year I get a Star Wars movie for my birthday. Last
But the
year,
next one's
I
in
got,
May.
I got The Force Awakens. My birthday is December 19th.
Yeah.
I got it on December 17th. Close enough. Thank you.
Right.
You'll take it.
Isn't the next one? May May
Nope.
2018?
They're doing them.
It's coming out,
in December.
December 2017 is going to be
Releasing
episode
them
8.
in
What was? Oh, I'm there. Yeah, I'm thinking of Han Solo.
Han Solo
doing-
is
that
set to
again,
start
that'll be-
filming in February of 2017.
That'll
So
be
it's,
between 8 and 9. You'll get that in December.
yeah.
Are you
following-
sure?
Yes.
I saw a thing recently.
Unless they're bumping the schedule up.
They might, because I saw a sort of teaser poster stating May 2018.
Maybe. Because May used to be the traditional
Yes.
month for the movies.
Oh, really?
to come out. And it
Right.
wasn't until The Force Awakens that they captured the December because of the push. They had problems filming. One, because the Millennium Falcon tried to kill
Harrison Ford.
That's
which,
right.
again, let's not get into. I'm not going to deviate into this, and
No.
one of my reasons for my theory, but that was the reason for the bump.
Right.
And in
So-
addition
It was
to
your
that, I
birthday.
mean, in that, it also broke records as far as money making. So December is a huge time for movies now. So now that
Yes.
Lucas
It
is no
feels-
longer at the helm and Disney's holding the reins, they're going to say, yeah, May was nice, but December, money.
Well, see, that's the sweet spot because you had in the early the early 2000s, you had the Lord of the Rings movies.
Lord of the Rings and the
held,
Hobbit.
Those held, yeah. You had
Harry Potter.
December movies were for the Christmas movie season was for Lord of the Rings. You had those consecutively, and then
Loved it.
there was a gap.
Harry
and then you had
Potter.
Harry Potter movies,
Yep.
and then you came back and you had the Hobbit,
Hobbit.
movies. They
Yeah.
all occupied that December release, and they did
Harry Potter.
fantastic. So this
Harry
fills that
Potter.
void.
you gave
Yes.
Dolby a sock. You gave Dolby a
Dolby-
movie for Christmas.
free. Dolby is free.
So, all right, now the
That's
minute
my elf on the shelf. Actually,
minute-
Dobby is my elf on the shelf.
the
How
Death
dare-
Star shows
Yeah.
up and that
Sorry, go on.
that
Yeah.
space battle starts, that's when I started doing those. Like I was almost hyperventilating. I'm like, red leader,
Yeah.
gold
What-
leader.
That's, dude, that's
Blue
when I
leader.
lost my. That's really when I actually teared up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say it right now. I when I get overexcited and overjoyed on something, it just suddenly I'm like, and it's like I just can't believe I'm seeing it. So they come out of hyperspace over Scarif, where the Imperial base is at, and they come out of hyperspace right in the Imperial fleet, and I was like, holy shit! And now General who is it? General Radis.
Yeah,
The new was it Calam?
the Mon Calamari,
Mon Calamari. I was gonna say calamari, and I was like, that's backwards.
the
That's
red
wrong.
the red lobster and the
Correct,
biscuits.
but now he's blue.
And the
Now
biscuit
he's
chips.
blue. Now he's kind of like a bluish purple thing. But he did a fantastic job filling that slot. That since we did lose the voice of Akbar.
Yeah, General Akbar.
Last year.
Admiral
So
Akbar.
I think they did.
Admiral.
I think they kind of did that and filled the void with a new character.
Well, it's good to see a new character because again, like then where was he in the battle of Endor? And in
Right.
such a large universe to have the same 5 people, which is
Yes.
why this was so refreshing because this wasn't just all right. Han and Luke and Leia have to save the universe, and believe me, I love it. But there's such a rich tapestry. Like
Yes.
we're exploring
I'm a
it in
fan of- I'm a
Rebels
fan of
right
the
now. So
diversity.
all the stories they're telling
Yeah.
constantly add to this lexicon we have, and it's great. It's
Yeah,
good to see other people doing things.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like a fan of the diversity of the group of people. Like you didn't have, and I'm gonna touch on this. Is like I'm always a fan of when you include multiple races of people, genders and stuff like that, and you don't just constantly fall on this trope of the white guy being the hero. You
Right.
had these multiple groups of people. You had a woman that was in the lead, which is great. I mean, I'm a big fan. I've always liked the characters that are like that, like Princess Leia. I mean, it's always great to see somebody's like that. It's like you don't expect to take control, and they
Right.
take control. And it's
Like the Alien movies.
yes, Ripley.
Yeah,
That is
Ripley.
a fantastic. I mean, she was fantastic. I love
Yeah.
that character.
I think she was pretty much one of the first times a female actually took a lead in that sort of capacity.
Right.
I think Sigourney Weaver just
But so many people
led
have
the
problems
way.
with it.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I don't understand the problem.
I
But
don't get it.
All right,
But
so we're,
anyway,
we're talking while we're talking new editions.
Yes.
K2.
K2's fantastic.
K2 was
I
amazing.
love K2.
You mean Sheldon Cooper?
No. Hey, I'm going to be honest. If you make any Big Bang Theory references, like more than just a name, I'm not going to know it because I refuse to watch that show.
Good.
I don't find it funny. Just me.
It's not anymore, but it used to have its geek moments,
Yeah.
which is what was
Yeah.
cool.
I used to just
But-
like seeing the Daleks on the shelf and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But
yeah.
K2, voiced by
K2.
Alan Tudyk,
Alan Tudyk just oh my
Refreshing.
God.
Loved it.
Yes.
I loved the way the character just kind of moved in, and just the attitude of the robot.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed the Imperial or the Sith robots because they are just so snarky and they're just so conniving, and it's just something delightfully enjoyable about a snarky robot. That's just me.
Well, I liked it because it was basically the new 3PO. It had the personality, but 3PO was very sort of.
He was very proper. Very.
he was
crisp.
Yeah.
he was a Felix Unger. He was complaining. He's funny. You like him, but he needed R2 to be.
Yes, that's the thing. They needed the two of those sort of played off each other. It worked. With K2, it was just him,
Yeah.
and he
He
didn't
didn't need
need
anybody.
a counterpart. No.
No.
He could hold the stage. He walked
could.
around. He decided to leave the ship, and then it's like, oh, everyone's getting fired on. I think I'll go wait in the ship.
Right.
Yeah. or when she shoots the other Imperial droid, he's like, "Wait, did you not know that was me?"
Yeah,
And
but
it
then
was-
when he immediately steps into place like he's taking them as prisoner, and he backslaps
Yes.
Cassian.
Cassian. Yeah, I was gonna say Calrissian. I was like, that's wrong. Cassian, when he backslaps him, and he's like, and if you do anything, there's a fresh one there for you.
Yes.
And I was like, that's just a fantastic. I mean, it's a ridiculous line, but it's ad-libbing by a droid, just on the spur of the moment to make
And he never seems to know what, like, I'm taking these prisoners to prison. Like,
Right, he's just flying by the seat of his pants. He's just making shit up as he goes, kind of like we're doing right now.
Pretty much what we do on a daily basis. But
yeah, pretty much. And the cool thing about it, and again, we didn't spend a lot of time with these characters, but I felt like, even though we don't know their diverse backstories,
Right.
this is a war movie. We lost pretty much all the characters that we were introduced to, and I was saddened commensurately with each one. Each loss, like when K2 went down, it's like, all right, here's a droid who chose to sacrifice himself to save these people on some impossible task. And yeah, I teared up at that. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And
Well, for a moment, I was like, I didn't know how they were going to go with the movie, because the movie, you're so used to a Star Wars movie where you don't, and this is also going to feed into my theory that we haven't yet to touch on. This movie, you knew. They're not coming back.
No,
That's
that's
it.
right.
They're dead. They're dead. They're dead. There is no doubt that person's dead.
As soon as they touch that planet, you know that
Right.
they're not making it
But
away.
that's the thing. So K2 was the first to go down. I was like, he's a main character. I was like, surely he can't die.
Right,
And
but
it's
he
like,
has to.
Fuck, K2 died.
See,
But
that's
here's
the
the
thing. We've been raised and used to that back door. Get some, like, all right, at the end of Star Trek Nemesis, it's like, oh my god, we just lost Data. Oh, that's okay, we got a backup Data. Like,
B4.
Yeah.
But see, that's kind of where I felt with the K2 when he was in there, and he was getting when he took the other Imperial droid and he was getting the maps of the facility. I was like, maybe he's uploading himself and making a backup.
What, like Spock?
And he's kind of like reprogramming this other
remember.
droid. And I was like, well, when he died, and I even made the comment, I was like, maybe, fingers crossed, that he uploaded himself to that other Imperial droid.
And then that droid blows up too.
Right, and I was like, well, there goes that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the thing. It's like K2 was just R2D2, absolutely my favorite. K2 very close. But that's the thing. It's like, and I made this comment to somebody. I think if you took R2 and you translated it to English, there would be a lot of the same things being said.
Well, R2
maybe he's snarky. R2
very much. But see, here's the thing I love about R2. R2 is the only being droid character in all of the Star Wars stuff that knows exactly everything that's going on, because R2 has never been wiped. R2 has been there from the beginning of the Skywalker saga. He knows everything, and he has saved everybody's ass more than anybody else in that entire saga.
And that's why it was nice to see that little 2-second cameo of them at the hangar going, oh, what's going on? Because they've got to be there. They're about to go with Captain Antilles and make their historic trip.
That's right.
Their Polar Bears ride.
By the way, I did see the picture that had Chopper in it.
I heard it was there.
See, I saw that. Now, here's the thing. We've seen a ship that looks like the Ghost. We've seen a droid that looks like Chopper. Now, we've seen droids that look like 3PO. I'm all for the Rebels crossover, but you're telling me that company only made one droid that looks like that.
Right.
But Chopper was a remnant of the Clone Wars. If you remember, he was in control in the Clone Wars, and he came to that. He was a I can't remember what type of robot or what kind of droid he was. I'm
just saying, as far as we're taking a screen grab and showing something in the corner, like, hey, there's a droid that's the same model as his.
They did make the nod to it, and they made, and there was actually a nod to, what's her name, Hera?
General Syndulla. Yep.
Yes, they made that. Now you don't know if that's her or if that's her father, but
it was a nice reference.
Those story timelines are about right now they're about 3 years separate, which I read that earlier today. So Rebels is right now currently about 3 years off from the events of Rogue One, but they got with David Filoni, who is the showrunner for Star Wars Rebels, and he actually said that they got with him before they made Rogue One to make sure that those few characters, were still going to be in it. Now, that doesn't allude to Kanan, and that doesn't allude to, I'm losing his name, Ezra.
Ezra
we
Bridger.
don't know how those two are going to turn out, which, by the way, if they happen to make it there, that would still mean that there were Jedi around when Luke came back in too, and Obi-Wan came back up. Anyway, that's just super cool to me. I like that little back thing that they're still Jedi.
And speaking of Jedi, and again, it was a little memberberry, but I thought it was done well. You see Bail Organa step forward out of the shadows. I was like, oh, it's Bail! And then he says, well, I'm going to go on a mission. I've got a friend. He's been in hiding. I'm like, oh, he's talking about Obi-Wan.
But then he talks about going back to Alderaan, and I was like, no, don't go back!
You're going to die.
It's going to be a very bad day.
You're going to die.
You can't tell him.
No, I can't have any information about the future.
Marty, it's about your kids.
Bail, you got to come back with me. Where? Back to Yavin. I refuse to accept the responsibilities.
God, yeah, that's so much. Yeah, anyway.
This is heavy.
And that's, there's that word again. Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull in the future?
It's just so heavy.
And that's the thing. With just a phrase, he goes, I must return to Alderaan.
Right.
We know. It's pulling on us. I'm like, oh.
That's the thing.
You're going to die.
You touched on in the beginning, them talking about it being fan service and whatever. Yeah, I think that they did those things because this is a movie that is for everybody. It is all important, but this is a movie that does feed the fans. It does do that, and I mean,
I think it does it correctly. I think it does it well.
But it's not over. it gave us a lot of new things, but at the same time, it gave us a little glimpse and a little bit more of the backstory of the things that we
Like,
love.
this seemed
Well,
to
the thing
serve
is-
the plot, whereas in The Force Awakens, it's like, hey, here's that prop that we used. Remember this? Like,
Right.
And I didn't like the way they did it.
It's like, well, hold on, guys. You realize that was when Luke was fighting Vader, and his hand was attached to that lightsaber the last time we saw it. So, yeah. But it's like, how did that come to be? And I had actually read somewhere some cockamamie, I can't believe
Theory?
yeah, some ridiculous theory that like they were supposed to show like Luke's hand still grasping the
What?
lightsaber floating through space.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, but somebody had to find it. How?
You're trying
Now,
to
but here's the
you're
thing,
trying to
as we
steer.
spoke-
You're trying hard to steer to your Han theory. I
No,
know it.
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Detour,
not.
detour, man.
That was not me. That wasn't me. But here's the thing also, is we start getting into kyber crystals and how the kyber crystals are actually communicate with force-strong individuals. But
Kyber.
then we're going to start really going off into getting off of the Rogue One subject. And this is all stuff that we can definitely hit on later on.
Well,
but
this is what I loved about Donnie Yen's character.
that's what I was going to say.
Oh.
Chirrut Imwe. Chirrut Imwe was
He's not a Jedi, but he's someone who, you know,
I
he
think
was,
I think
he was
he's
a defender of the temple, so he
I think
was
he's a little force
Jedi
sensitive.
adjacent.
Yes, he's force sensitive, but definitely not a wielder.
The best. Oh my god, he was like. So you think that K2 was like some sort of like comic relief element to it?
Right.
This guy was fantastic. Like when they put the hood on him, he's like, "Really,
Right.
guys,
Are
I'm
you
blind."
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's the thing. It's like I said, it took me a minute, and I really wanted to learn his. I wanted to learn his name. Like people's, I'm gonna be honest. Names are it's a problem for me to retain names immediately, and I make an effort. I really do. Like when something makes an impact on me, and I did. I wanted to know Chirrut Imwe, just being that character's name. Like I wanted to know who. I want to know more about him. Because he is a guardian, and the fact that we go to Jeddah, which is the homeworld of the Jedi, but I think that's actually changed. I don't think it was in the expanded universe before the Disney buyout. I think it was something else. I've read somewhere that it was a different planet. But
It seems
Jeddah,
like it is now. 'Cause
Jeddah
they really did. They talked about the holy city, the last remnants of the Jedi. You saw that
Right.
fallen statue,
which
very
was
very
just
Lord of the
and I
Rings
was
esque.
like, wow, we're
Oh,
finally
yes.
getting to see where the Jedi came from. I would love
Right.
to see more about that planet, but the fact that the kyber crystals, when they started touching on that, I was like, oh, they're actually calling them by name. They're actually calling them what they are. That's the thing that communicates the most with the Jedi.
The Kyber
And-
crystal.
And the interesting thing about now, here's something that was actually in a book that was written. It was about Ahsoka Tano. It came out it was earlier this year. I cannot remember the name of the book, but I haven't read it. But apparently, it's touched on the fact that the reason that when a Sith has a lightsaber, the saber is red, because Sith are not allowed to. They're not supposed to be able to communicate with the kyber crystals. The kyber crystal actually bleeds when a Sith gets a hold of a kyber crystal, which is why every Sith saber is red. It has something to do with the fact that they are almost sentient.
Oh, no, that's almost going into Metachlorian
Not going
territory.
to But that's the thing. That's the thing that's been fantastic is every kyber crystal has a unique bond with its Jedi. And the kyber crystal speaks to that, and they've even talked about that, even in the Clone Wars and in Star Wars Rebels, when they talked about going and when they in the Clone Wars when they sent the younglings, there was a whole episode that concentrated on that, and they went to go find their kyber crystals. They actually spoke individually to those younglings. But again, I'm going.
And we didn't see a lightsaber ignite until like 2 hours and 10 minutes into the movie,
Right, until
when Vader sparked his one lightsaber, and the whole theater lost their minds.
Yes, and then he lights that, and then he just starts force grabbing and force choking.
Oh, he's just
and-
on a mission, isn't he?
But see, that's the
God.
thing. Like I read the Vader comic, and I'm kind of like the comic book really, which has ended now, sadly, really went a little bit past A New Hope. But in that, he actually has, it touches on more of him and his agenda, and he's actually got like a submission that he's been trying to find like Luke Skywalker and all this before Empire Strikes Back.
Mhm.
But that's deviating off into that, and he's kind of doing this under the Emperor's nose.
Yeah, there's always been ancillary tales, like the two of the video games. What is it? The
The
Force Unleashed. About
Force
Vader's
Unleashed, yeah,
about Vader's
which is where they took Starkiller
apprentice,
and they made that
he's
Starkiller
always
base.
tried to find someone to kill the Emperor for him because
Right.
he probably wasn't strong enough to do it himself.
But that was the whole thing about the Sith. You have the Master and you have the Apprentice. Two Sith, no more, no less.
But that's what I liked about Rogue One, because we didn't have to get bogged down with too much of that. 'Cause it's like, hey, we had all the elements we loved and recognized, and Chirrut was that reminder that yes, the Jedi are in this universe, but
Right.
we don't have one with us right now, so don't worry.
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
And his companion. Now,
Right,
I have to ask.
name.
I've got to ask about that.
Human
Anybody
Chewbacca.
Else, well, I see. No, see, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
is this guy a Mandalorian?
He is.
Is this-
No, he's not.
Ma-
He's
oh,
not
Mandalorian?
He's not Mandalorian.
Yeah.
He is actually. I think he's a character from the Clone Wars cartoon.
Right.
Him and Saul Guerrero. Saul Guerrero, who
Saul
was
Guerrero,
played-
yep.
God, what's his name?
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker. God, Ghost Dog. That's the movie I said. I always refer. Have you ever
Last
seen
King
that
of
movie?
Scotland.
Yeah, there you go. That's another one. But that character that was with Chirrut,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a supporting, and but you could tell that the camaraderie and the friendship that they had, they always had each other's back. And I don't know, and I've read that, somewhere on there, and whatever it is, but I don't think that they went too deep into it. No pun intended. The fact that they may have been two gay characters in the Star Wars universe, but without calling them that.
Right.
And if they did that, I mean, great. But it's the same thing with, you just see these two characters that support each other regardless
Yeah.
of what's going on.
Well, see that.
But you could just say
brings
the same about Han and Chewie then. couldn't
Yeah.
you? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
Just,
But that's the thing. It's like they've just got that relationship.
See, I like
Whatever it is,
that's what
that
I liked
person
about
has the
Star
other
Wars
person's
when
back.
I was a kid, because there wasn't any consideration of, there's not
Right.
enough women in the cast. There's
No.
not enough minorities in the cast. It's just good and evil. Let's shoot some guns. Let's fly some planes.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're a kid, that's the world. That's the story. You
Yeah.
don't differentiate race, color, creed like
No.
we do now. And Rogue One brought me back to that. Here's all these guys saying, you know what? We're going to team up. We're going to do this. It's a suicide mission. Let's go.
Right.
Yes.
And I
Well,
was
back
on
in
board.
'77.
But that's the thing. Is like, would we have had that if Jen didn't take the lead? Jen took the lead. She made that decision. She's like, "This is going to happen. I'm going to go
Cassian
find my father."
rounded up the merry men, though.
He
Yeah.
did, but she was going to go regardless.
And she would have
Yeah.
gotten shot down the minute she got
but
there.
understandably, but again, that's supporting.
It's like that
Matt.
Family Guy thing when Dak is like, "Hey, I feel like I can take on the
Take
whole
on the
empire."
whole thing
Right.
myself. Yeah.
Guys, Dak's got this. Go ahead. Boom.
He goes out and jumps in
Time
there.
to suck some
Yeah.
Dak. Yeah.
So
Oh,
fantastic.
speaking of stuff that didn't happen in this movie, I think I mentioned this to you, Rob. Half of my favorite lines and half the things I expected to see from the trailers were not in the movie. And we
Yeah.
know there were reshoots, but
Right.
go watch the trailers again. There's some
know.
great lines. When Jin goes out onto that gantry to realign the
There's
thing,
a TIE
well,
a
fighter.
TIE fighter comes down.
Yeah,
Right.
and I was like, that's the thing. It's like I was like, oh, that's going to be a cool scene.
That line,
Yeah.
we're rebellion. Rebel.
I
It's
rebel.
like,
Yeah.
gone.
But then, like, even there's a scene when they're on Scarif, and her and Cassian are running across the beach,
Yep, gone.
and you see her holding
The hard drive.
the drive. That never happened because they never get out. They
You
never
also
get out of the
see-
tower.
You also see those stormtroopers walking
Until
through
the
that
end.
clear water. You see all these different shots that could have been just shot for the trailer, but
Right.
I can't wait till the Blu-ray comes out now because I want to see
yeah.
those deleted
I
scenes.
was going to say,
Well-
well, I don't know. Maybe there'll be the extended edition.
I've got to go back and watch the movie again. I've kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
spaced it. I wanted to go back immediately the next day, but I was like,
Right.
I'm going to oversaturate myself. I need to give myself time to marinate.
That and,
come back
and
and then I'll
18,
revisit
18
it.
19 bucks for IMAX was kind of a kick in the
Yeah,
wallet,
I'll
but
probably
it
go
was
see
worth
it. Maybe in standard def this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, $20 shot at the movie because every time there's a Star Wars release, I always got the get. I always end up with it. I had let's talk about. I've got beta tapes. I've got VHS tapes. I've got 3 different versions of VHS. I've actually got the original Star Wars on VHS with no additions. like no special edition,
Yes.
no
I have
anything.
well,
It's got the hologram on the
Yeah.
cover of the box.
And you
of
see
Luke
when
standing there
the
with
when the
lightsaber.
TIE fighters go across the screen, there's that box that travels along with them because they
Yep.
hadn't got the keying down yet.
Yep.
But it's like I want Yub Nub. I want that at the end of my
Jedi. Yep.
Jedi.
You know, and again, this is a divergence, but
Yeah.
it always bothered me that Wedge brought his helmet to the party at Endor. It's like, dude, leave that in the car. What are you doing?
Why are you carrying that?
Like, is Ewok Village a bad neighborhood? Do you not want to leave it in the car? They're going to steal your radio and your helmet? Like,
Well, you can tell the Ewoks are a little unruly.
yep.
But anyway, so I'm trying to think about where we kind of are in
Too much nub-nub.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
nub.
yep.
But like
Anyway.
as far as the covering of the Rogue One and kind of the depth, I know there's plenty of stuff that I saw that wanting to, and I'm trying to go back to it because we're like jumping into this and this and this and this, and I'm like, there were points that I
we've
wanted to
been-
bring up, and now I
We've been
can't
doing a
remember
lot
the
of
points.
the things that we love about it. Is
Yes.
there anything that let's look at it objectively? Is there anything that you're like, this is bothering me, Paul?
Yeah.
What do you think?
They didn't have the scrolling at the beginning.
That's called bookends, guys. We started at the beginning and at the end. This has been Three Geeks Said It.
Yep. That's a callback right there.
Oh dear.
It's foreshadowing.
So yeah, anything other than that?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I mean, I honestly, I just sat there and just geeked out the entire time.
Can we talk about how cool the Death Troopers are?
Yeah. How
I mean,
cool are the Death Troopers?
But here's the thing. But that's the fact. So I'm trying to figure out the Death Troopers. They come in. They're clearly taller than your regular stormtroopers.
And they can actually hit a target.
Right?
Yes.
Leaner build than
That was weird.
Oh, that's something I do want to talk about. Hold
Yeah.
on. So that's something that came to me earlier today. But so then none of them spoke English. If you listen,
Yeah, I noticed
all
that.
the chatter was in a different language. So what race are they?
Oh.
That was interesting.
What alien? They clearly had to be something different. I want to know what's going on there. I want to know if they're a specific breed.
I mean, that's
Of
probably
alien?
something that Krennic had a key to because they were his personal death guard. And once he went, and again, of course, we're looking at this retroactively, but it's not like you ever see a Death Trooper again.
Correct. Well, you do see them but you do see them in that movie. In that movie alone, it's a standalone thing. So
Right.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like
if these guys were the elite of the elite,
right.
they would have been in Vader's guard. They would have been in the 501st, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. But
See, even with Vader, I mean, well, like the Emperor, he had the Emperor, the Royal Guards, the Red Guards.
yeah.
And
Yeah, but
I mean,
they weren't They weren't Death Troopers, though. were they?
Correct. You didn't have.
But you're right though. He would if they were part of the Empire, then Vader would have had his own Death Troopers. In fact, they would have all probably had he's probably bred them or something. He's probably something like the clone element of it, where they've actually been specifically bred for that one purpose.
That would make sense, and that's
You
why
know,
something
special
went wrong.
forces. Yeah, the special forces.
Right.
It's like sending Schwarzenegger in to get the Predator. You got that elite team, and once the guy's gone.
That and the program is too expensive to keep up. Hey,
That
it was
too.
great. We've only got 5 of them. They're the super soldiers. The
Yeah,
serum
right.
ran out.
They're the Captain Americas. They're the superhuman, the super soldiers.
The Captain Coruscant, which you saw briefly. I think it looked like Coruscant in the flashback when Krennic and Orson were talking in kind of midway when Jen is having
Oh, the
one of her
party
flashbacks.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that looked like Coruscant, which was nice because again, for a planet that should be so important, we see so little of it.
Yeah.
At least
But-
in our Star Wars, I kind of
Right.
don't think of the prequels.
But so we're referring back to with the whole just Coruscant being in the kind of the core of the prequels.
New Hope element of it.
Okay, yeah, because it definitely wasn't. But I mean, that was the thing with Coruscant. It was just a city that was a planet. It was
Because when we were
entire planet was the
introduced
city.
in New Hope to this whole thing, I mean, they just referred to it briefly. They're like, oh, the Emperor has dispensed with the Senate. It's like, whoa, without the
Right.
Senate, how are we going to keep the local systems in line? And when you're 3 years old, you don't get things like this. And just,
Right.
again, because we're kids, we don't care about the politics. We care about the lasers and the ships and that stuff.
But see,
Yeah.
even from a kid though, the one thing that stuck in my head is when they would refer to the Clone Wars. I kept wanting to imagine. I was like, what are the Clone Wars? I was like, I know what clones are. I was like, I want to know what these clones. Did they fight a bunch of clones? Was there a clone outbreak? Was it? I didn't. I wanted to know more about that. So
Now
when
we
they
know.
did dive into the whole idea of what the Clone Wars were, I was like, all right, this is
Yeah.
pretty cool. But the whole idea with Coruscant being where the Jedi Order was in the temple, and you had all the holocrons and everything there. But the whole thing about, and I've read this recently, is apparently the Jedi Temple on Coruscant was actually built over a Sith temple, which
heard
actually
that.
resided on Coruscant before that, which is actually what caused Yoda to not be able to foresee the future because the Sith temple was interfering with the Force. And him being able to foresee, I don't know. But then I'm like, well, what happens when he leaves the planet? When he went to Kashyyyk and he helped the Wookiees, why wasn't he able to see it then? But, that's the whole thing. It's like, how strong of a role did that play if that was a real thing?
I mean, it's almost like we got to take it, pulling back to the paranormal, like, and we talk about psychics. They're not all knowing, so Yoda knows a lot. But he's not. If he knew everything, he wouldn't need the council.
Right,
Wouldn't
they
need to
can
do everything.
see
He's just
and
like,
feel
And
like
that whole-
possible futures.
and again, the prequels did a lot of disservice to the franchise as much as it did some
I
good things.
really wish
Yeah.
That whole
midichlorians
bringing-
never came into existence.
That whole bringing balance to the Force, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Jedi, you guys might not want this because you're in control right now. So if
Right.
bringing balance, that means wiping all of you guys out. So I wouldn't try to
Right.
Yeah.
bring balance just yet.
I wouldn't be applauding that quite yet.
No. It's like once
like,
you're
oh,
all
this-
dead and there's
this
two
kid
of
could
you
bring-
and two of
this-
them, yeah, now we've got balance. Congratulations. How's it feel?
And they look at that's what they look at Anakin. They're like, that kid could bring balance to the Force. Put him in a cage.
Kill him.
Yeah, immediately. But
Into exile you must go.
but so we
Oh, now we're all going to start doing our Wookiee impressions and Yoda
we're-
impressions. And...
No, but it's just going to be whatever happens. You're just going to have to deal with it. Just if you're impression. All you can do is Imperial forces. So I mean, that's all that matters. You and your British accent.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I feel like when I was a kid, the Empire was the coolest. Vader was the coolest.
was.
The uniforms.
No.
If there was Transformers, I loved the Decepticons. Cobra
too.
was
What?
awesome with G.I. Joe.
I've always loved the villains.
But
I've
now
never
that I'm
been
older,
villain.
I'm like, these guys have to be stopped.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
That's the thing is, I've
With the
always
good
had
guys.
feelings for villains and like their machines and what they what they do, but it's what they represent. Like
Yeah.
when every time I play a video game, and I've got the choice between the light side and the dark side, I
Dark
always
side.
end up going with the light side. I can't help it. I'm like, I don't want to kill all these people.
You know, I just did that with Fallout. I mean, Fallout 4, I got the Nuka World the DLC, and there's two ways you can go with that. You can complete this the good way or the evil way. And the evil way, you can be in charge of all the raiders, and you can take out all the camps you've set up in the Commonwealth. You can go in there and just take them all back and take them all and make them all raiders. Or you can just kill the raiders that are in Nuka World. And I was like, I knew it was there, but I couldn't find the good ending, how to start the good ending. I was like,
Right.
damn, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be the king of
Well,
the
like with-
raiders.
Like Knights
That's
of the
like
Old
Fable
Republic.
2. You could choose to be good or bad, and depending on your actions, you either get more evil or more good. And I'm
Right.
like, I've got to be good. I'm going to be Boy Scout on this
to.
one.
Right.
It just-
That's
it
what I did
literally- yeah.
with Knights of the Old Republic. I played through it twice. I played through it full light side and full dark side, and I had a problem with that because I started going through. I was like, and I would start doing it, and I would waver, and I found myself in a morality duel. I was like, if I was really in this, I was like, how would I go about it? And I was like, it's a video
I'd be the
game.
worst bad guy ever.
Right. But then
I'd get stuck at
into
a crappy job, have to pay my taxes, and not go on any adventures.
it. But then I went full dark side, and I was kind of like, I'm kind of enjoying all the wiping out of people
Yeah.
getting in my way.
I
And
like
was
the robots and the uniforms and everything, but
Yeah.
I'd be wearing all that
aesthetically,
while
the bad
sitting
guys
at
are
a
always
desk.
the best.
I'd be on the end of the phone or something trying to do tech support, dressed as a freaking bad guy. You know, it's just you can just imagine Vader. You know, actually, I think I saw one of these
Dude.
Office Space things.
Have you-
I need you to work on Saturday.
Dude, we would be Finn from The Force Awakens. It's like, you were a garbage guy? Yeah. You were in sanitation?
I feel like that's where that's going to fall in.
That's yeah.
But okay, so I'm going to jump back to something real quick when I wanted to touch on before I forget about it. So we're talking about the stormtroopers and their horrible aim, which they have alluded to. They've alluded to it in Star Wars Rebels when God, what's his name? The last clone trooper.
Oh, Captain Rex.
Captain Rex, and he even alludes to how horrible they are and how they can't shoot and how they can't. And I was like, that's fantastic. They actually acknowledge it in canon. But I started to think about it. I was like, okay,
they're
so
supposed to be crack shots, though.
Yeah.
When we first hear about them, Obi-Wan says
That's what
only
I'm getting ready
Imperial
to touch on.
stormtroopers
He goes,
are so
they're-
precise.
Right, that's what I was getting ready to touch on. So, and this kind of leads into other theories that I have, and I'm not going to dive into those quite yet. But, so when they're shooting at the people that are the main characters of the movie, those main characters are what? Strong with the Force.
Important to the franchise and
No,
can't be
they
killed
are.
because there's no
They
more
are.
movies.
Oh, I
Hold
see.
on.
Okay,
They are Force strong.
right.
What did Chirrut Imwe do as he was walking to turn on the transmission tower?
I'm with the Force.
I am
the Force
one with
is
the
with
Force. The Force is with me. I am one with the Force. The Force. Da 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 da. All the way through the thing, never once being hit. You had a Force. Now you take somebody that is an actual Force wielder that doesn't know their abilities. What happens? Now you have somebody that's deflecting, or they're not deflecting, but they're avoiding shots because of their connection with the Force. The Force is actually getting them through that situation.
Well,
Leia was Force strong. Luke was.
Solo wasn't.
That's one of the things I haven't touched on yet.
Oh, okay.
Possibly
We're gonna have to
an
do a whole
ability.
episode because I
Right.
know, like, Rob's just been wanting to say it for the past hour and 10 minutes, and it's like
I'm not going to say it, but I'm not going to say it because that's gonna. It would chew up a lot of time because it's of the different paths it goes down. Again, all possibilities.
All connected.
Right. But that's the thing is like, so I came to that realization today. I was like, you have these main characters. The ones that you always see that are getting shot at were Force strong or with somebody that is Force strong.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting theory
It's
that
a
can
theory.
explain
It is,
something
and I
that
haven't-
is
I
pretty
haven't
much
gone
just
back-
storytelling 101 because
Right.
in every franchise, the good guys make it through somehow, and that's why they're the heroes.
Right,
because
and I get that, but
they
the-
defy the odds. Like,
Right.
I mean, okay, I just went to a gun range for the first time last month, and I now can watch action movies a little better because I'm taking time to aim, and there's nobody shooting back at me, and I still can't hit where I think I should be hitting. And meanwhile, you're running around shooting guns and wondering why they're not hitting it. Like, I give the stormtroopers a lot more leeway now.
That's weird because the first time I shot a gun, I thought I could be like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon.
Dude, that's exactly what
I
I
was
thought.
trying
No
to do the
joke.
smiley face. I tried. I did that. First time I shot a gun was actually like this time last year. It was the first time I actually shot a gun. So it's about a year ago now. I haven't shot one since. So, but yeah, a year ago I stood there on the button and I just kept letting it go further and further back. You know, full on Lethal Weapon. This was, you know.
This thing, and I'm gonna be honest, I've still never shot a real gun. I've still never shot a gun, so I have no.
Well, you
I
know,
have nothing
Paul and I could go William Tell on you, and the way guns are, we will miss you.
Yes. Oh no, we would.
But
So-
that's just because I'm strong with the Force. So
That must
Well,
be
the
it.
Force is. I believe in the Force, and the Force
Right.
is with me. But
I'm with the Force. The Force is with me.
right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely.
Hey, speaking of that, what about that weird squid creature that was supposed to make the pilot go mad, and kind of didn't? But
He did, but he got brought back because if you remember when Chirrut was sitting,
he was messed up
next
a
to
little
him,
bit.
and
Oh, in the
Cassidy was
prison
sitting there,
cell.
but he didn't get pulled back. He said you could. He said, but the people that have been affected by it do tend to lose their mind, but he did. He was out of it. I think that because if you remember when he said something to him, he goes, "Are you what's it? The Imperial?
I'm a pilot. I'm a
Pilot.
pilot. I'm
Or,
a
yeah,
pilot.
So, and he had to be reminded of who he was, and being reminded who he was pulled him back from that brink of losing.
Right.
If he wouldn't have been reminded, he would have been lost. I think that's just the way that I took it.
oh, yeah. Well, he only said that some people lose their minds.
Right.
So I mean, it was covered.
And I think I also think he was a good addition to the.
I like that cat. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't get into any of them too deeply, but neither did we in A New Hope. It's like, hey, we find this farm boy, okay, we're going on an adventure. Oh, now we got a scoundrel and a princess. And we didn't go too deep into their characters. We just knew they were the heroes.
Yes, and that's all we needed to know.
Yep.
And he was unique. He had a unique look. He had the goggles. He had the suit. That was his thing. That was his look. And the fact that he was kind of fast talking and quick on his feet as far as like what to. He's the one that came up with the whole Rogue One moniker and the call sign for Rogue One.
And he was also looking for that redemption too, because a lot of the people working for the Empire are just doing it as a means to an end. And the fact that he was told that this is how I can make everything right, that this is a guy trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And that speaks to a lot of people.
But we wouldn't have Rogue 2 if we didn't have Rogue One.
Oh, speaking of call signs, nice little Red 5 nod there.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
That was so that, and I actually read that they actually got footage that wasn't used in the original Star Wars movie, and that stuff was the scenes that they inserted into this.
Digitally remastered and everything.
Yeah, and
That's
they
cool,
took it,
man.
and that was actual on stuff that didn't use in the flick, and they put it in this movie. And I was
That's nice.
that is fantastic, because when
That's
you
a
saw
nice
him, I
nod.
was like, that guy didn't age a bit, and I was like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah, that was
like,
totally
because
just legit.
Falcon was legit.
Because that guy actually passed away.
Yeah.
He passed away this year, I think, because we lost him and the voice of
Akbar.
Akbar, yeah.
I mean, for the most part, those scenes just look cut in, but I was fine with that because, again, it cemented you into the fact that, yes, A New Hope is about to happen. Of course these guys are going to be in the fleet.
Right.
Yeah.
But
They're the top They're the top pilots. Of course they will.
It was just, I think it was done well. Did we have a Porkins? Was there a Porkins in there? Please tell
Not
me.
yet.
No.
I couldn't recall. I was like, was there a Porkins in that?
Porkins was working at the mess hall at Yavin 4. He was at the commissary,
He
so he
wasn't
was getting everyone's...
working at the mess hall.
He
If we
was
need
getting all
anything-
their lunches ready.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I think...
You eat
I
other
making
people's
sandwiches.
lunches?
Jen would have made it off if there was a little Porkins.
Actually, maybe Porkins wasn't quite so porked yet. Maybe
Yeah.
the story in between Rogue One and A New Hope is how he got his extra force,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
Had we just had
talked about the
Porkins
force
and
of-
Dax.
So we're
would have
talking about the
sorted it all
force of
out.
gravity, friction. Which one are we talking about?
Actually, I read somewhere that there was a nod to Wedge, but I didn't pick up on it, and I didn't
Yeah.
see him at all.
I didn't either. But the thing is, the one nod that I did see multiple times, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, and the tie back to Rebels was I did see the Ghost multiple times in the battle in space over
So
Skillet.
did I. I mean,
and I was watching. I actually tracked it, and I saw it on the left side of the screen because it was an IMAX screen, like we all experienced.
Mhm.
I actually went from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, turning my head, going, "But that was cool."
See, I dug that, but then I had to go back to my air of skepticism, like, all right, that company probably built more than one of that ship,
No,
so it
but I'm
could
telling
be...
you, it has been acknowledged. That was the Ghost.
Oh, that was the Ghost? Okay,
Yes.
cool. I dig it.
Like I said, they acknowledged Filoni acknowledged that was the Ghost, and
Nice.
that was Chopper, and that they were referring to Hera.
That's cool. All right,
Yeah.
I dig that then.
Yes.
See,
So
I
it was
missed
tied
out on this because I've not watched the animated series.
You
now,
really are
now
missing
Paul,
it.
you
I
should
was-
watch
I-
Rebels, because
I
when it
really
first
should.
came out, I
was afraid
remember
it was gonna be
writing
Aladdin.
Rob, and I said, dude, this feels like Star Wars, because the
Yeah.
music, they use
Yes.
orchestration and themes from
Right.
the original.
But that's
The stormtroopers look the way they should again, and
Yeah.
we're getting back to our Star Wars.
And that's the
Right.
thing. It's like when you take people don't understand how important audio cues, music, and voices are to suddenly pulling you into nostalgic feel.
Right.
And when they took that, when Disney knew what they were doing. They said, when I talk about Disney money, I'm talking about somebody that went and they dug up those sounds and they added those sounds from that universe the old way. And even what's the classic scream?
That's a Wilhelm scream.
Yes, that was even in there a couple of times. I heard it when Stormtroopers, and so just those nuances really added to it. I was afraid it was going to be Aladdin mixed with Star Wars because I'm going to be honest. Ezra looks a lot like Aladdin.
He does.
He looks a lot like Aladdin, And I was afraid in the first episode, I'm watching it, and suddenly I sunk in, and the sound effects and the music, and
See,
then the look.
that
I
got
was
me
like,
too.
this is
I
it.
didn't know the Clone Wars was ending, so when it ended, I'm like, oh, all right, I guess that's it. And when Rebels came out, I said, oh, another show so soon, and I wasn't planning on watching it either because I don't know who these characters are, and
Right.
oh, the music, oh,
Right.
hey, stormtroopers, oh, a mouse droid, oh, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need more gonk droids. I'm telling you
Gonk.
right now.
I didn't see a damn gonk anywhere. Did I miss it? Did I miss the gonk? I
don't think
didn't
there was a
see
gonk.
it.
We saw the Death Star
That's-
droid a couple of times.
We saw the mouse droids. I
Yeah.
saw
Saw the
those.
mouse droids. You saw the Imperial probe droid in the background.
Oh, I missed that one.
I think I might have missed that.
Oh yeah, he's
Ooh.
like 2 seconds when they first get to Jeddah and they're walking in the background. You see one kind of just chilling out.
Just.
But how
just-
fantastic was to actually see the ATST going through the streets of Jeddah?
Oh, dude! Wait,
So
what
good.
was the one? The AT-AT, the AT-AT. When that
Well, that
first
was actually
came in,
it was
once
AT-ACT. That was an upgraded version. It was a predecessor of the AT-AT. It
Right.
actually has
for cargo.
It had a cargo thing that sat in the middle of the body that was removed instead of it being
Troop
more
transport.
utilitarian.
right?
thing.
But I'm talking about on the oh my god, the planet, the
Jeddah.
the archive.
Jeddah.
No,
Jeddah.
archive.
Oh, you
Was
talking
that
about
Jeddah? The archive
Jeddah.
planet. Okay.
Oh, you mean
Scarab.
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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, when you've got the special force team. They're in the forests. They're in the woods. They're taking them, and all of a sudden you see this giant foot coming in, and
Oh, it's when Chirrut
Oh.
does that Yoda move and he's like,
yeah,
"Oh, run! We have to get out of
Yeah,
here."
right. Yeah,
But-
you
but
just,
then
you
the
just
whole
see,
thing-
yeah. Oh,
It's the sound.
it was the
ka-chunk,
sound.
The ka-chunk.
Oh,
You know,
it
the
was
sound
so
that's
good.
definite AT-AT sound as it's
Yes.
as it's going.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's even though the story. Okay, as far as the story itself had already been written. When we watched New Hope, when we watched that, I wasn't even alive in '77, so I'm not as old as you two. But,
Oh wow!
But
You're
but ultimately,
getting shut up, twat. Twat.
but ultimately, the New Hope had already written that story. Had already, the Rogue One story was already done. When they did A New Hope, they did Empire and they did Jedi and all that. The story was already there, and all that had to be done, it had to be told, and I think that's what they did. And
Yeah,
I think they did
absolutely.
it very well.
Yeah, ultimately, like I said, they gave us new characters. They gave us depth. When they took from Galen Erso, going to Jen Erso, and then her coming and being pulled in the story, and then that ties in Saul Guerrera. Saul Guerrera ties in the Clone Wars era stuff into the Star Wars Rebels type era. Which, by the way, Saul Guerrera is coming to Star Wars Rebels.
I saw that.
in the second half of the season. Looking forward to that. So then you get that, and then you have Orson Krennic, who then had actually was him and Urso were creators of the Death Star and using the kyber crystals for the laser.
See now it seems like the one speed bump I saw. It's like, okay, we saw the Death Star plans back in Attack of the Clones when they were escaping Geonosis, and actually I know that
Yes.
that the mid-season premiere of Rebels is going to go back to Geonosis and maybe fill in some of those
Interesting.
gaps. But it's almost like here those guys said you could build this, and Krennic and Urso had to figure out, well, okay, how are we going to do this?
See, I kind of want to know more of that story. And actually,
There's a book called Catalyst.
Catalyst, and that's what I do. I do want to go back and read that, and that's one of my goals for the beginning of 2017. I want to get that book.
So now here we go. We're coming up on an hour and a half. So
Okay.
we're gonna round up this session of the Senate. So let's have some closing remarks on Rogue One. Paul, take it away. Rogue One. Sell it to me.
I'm gonna go see it again. I have to. It's there's bits I've missed, I'm sure of it, and think it's one of those movies that we're going to be able to watch over and over, and we're going to pick up another thing, we're going to pick up something else, we're going to pick up another thing, and it's all just everything about that movie was the same feels I got from when I first watched New Hope. So I mean, I loved it.
So that's thumbs up from Paul.
Total thumbs up.
Now, for me, I'm looking at this from a business aspect. Rogue One had a lot riding on it as far as the anthology portion of the Star Wars franchise, because we're definitely going to have saga movies. They're going to crank those out at whatever pace they want to. But now this opens up the door. Yeah, the Han Solo anthology is definite go. You know, they've been talking about a Boba Fett one. The Obi-Wan one is being pushed back
God,
because
can we please get an Obi-Wan movie?
he still might have importance or at least some kind of
I don't
story
know.
in Saga.
Obi-Wan, I'm telling you right now, Obi-Wan was one of the biggest badasses in that story.
As long as they don't do what they did with the X-Men and then, like, you know, say that they're going to be doing all these origin stories and origin this and origin that, and yet only one of them really works, so they're just going to milk that one. You know? And we all know, you know. But
and that's another podcast too, because we've got to talk about Logan. But
yeah,
I feel that Rogue One, in addition to being the box of feels that we were all waiting for, they did a great job with story. They did a great job with effects. I left again just being able to enjoy a movie and not picking it apart, going, "Well, this was dumb," or like I enjoyed myself in the theater again, and I've been missing that for a very long time. So Rogue One, thumbs up from this senator. Rob, closing statement.
I've got to absolutely emphatically agree. Because you've got, like I said, you've got the movie and you've got the original trilogy, but then you've got a lot of the new. You've got new things coming into it. You're filling in gaps. You're adding depth and layers. You're giving us more of what we love. And is it crowd service? Yes, but it's also smart, and it's also just giving the fans that have been with it for almost 40 years, you know, just kind of a little bit more. It's kind of giving them a reward for just being that fan. And is that a bad thing? No, because it makes us want more out of it. Yeah. But at the same time, it gave us great characters. It gave us great new locations and planets. It gave us new mythology. Another thing, and I'm just going to touch on this real quick because I didn't mention it earlier, is the fact that they do mention the Wills in this. Yes. And the Guardians of the Wills. Now, the Wills were originally, they were saying that was, the Wills was supposed to be what the race that Yoda is. And they are the ones that were supposed to be, you know, and this is all original. This is like in concept.
Yeah, wasn't it Anakin Starkiller and the Book of the Wills or something?
Right.
Was the original screenplay?
As it was something by the Book of the Wills, and they alluded to that. So is Yoda one of the Wills, and are the Wills the ones that are basically the storytellers and the keepers? Because they say that all of Star Wars is kind of told from the legends or the writings of the Wills.
Don't you mean a Quill?
A Quill? It's we're not going Quill Wheaton.
Why are you saying it like that? Why are you putting so much emphasis on the H?
Say cool.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
But in you know, kind of touching that, it's like, yes, it kind of gave us little things like that, but it gave us huge spectacles. It gave us fantastic moments from people that we weren't, you know, unassuming heroes, unassuming new fan favorites. Even though those favorites don't exist forthcoming, you can revisit those in Star Wars Rebels. You have plenty of time to have some of those characters be reintroduced and get more backstory. I think that we'll be able to enjoy more of those characters and kind of see them coming up through the ranks. And Vader. I mean, we finally get a touch on more live-action Vader. Like I said, I read the comic. I would love to have seen a standalone Vader movie, so you can kind of see more of that stuff, because he does have his own droids, which are evil versions of R2 and C-3PO, which are 000 and BT.
See, anything is possible now that this has done well.
People. But that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it is all possible. But definitely huge thumbs up. Any movie that makes me enjoy being in the theater, and just the story, and like you said, Brian, not picking it apart, not going this is bad, this is good, this is conflicting with it. I just was along for the ride.
Yeah, we've gotten jaded as we've gotten older. Ride. We've gotten a little more sophisticated. In this one, I was a kid again, and I dug it.
Yeah, just enjoy it for what it was. Enjoy it for what it was.
It was the best, and give me more Star Wars like this any day.
So it sounds like the Senate is in agreement. We are all thumbs up for Rogue One, and with that, we put a period on this session of 3 Geeks Senate. My name is Brian J. Cano.
I'm Paul Bradford.
I'm Robert Bukszar.
And we're going to be back whenever we have something geek to say, and we will at length. So for those of you who have listened to us for the past hour and a half, thank you, and we will see you on the next session. Good night, everyone.
Good night.